You like saying she's bread and breakfast?
Okay, we're ready whenever you folks are.
All right, so before we move on to Angie and Charlie, I think we should go back and talk more about the farm, the barn, the cows, the horses, the chickens. And I know how Mom used to take the chickens and
Break their necks.
break their necks and then come over here and, who was it, your job to pull the feathers up?
Put
Put
dip
them
it
in
in hot water
Hot water.
and pull out the feathers. This just
So there was a barn here before you built that big building back there.
Yes.
The barn was right back here with the garages in
Barn,
that area.
yes, was there,
And I know they had a
House.
cow.
cows, goats.
and housed cow, 2 horses, a goat,
Couple of goats.
couple was
I
it?
was raised on goat's milk.
Me
Maybe
too.
that's why I would probably run around all the time.
Yeah, that's why you got the horns.
And,
Is that why you eating them tin cans then?
Let me see. You
it
couldn't
was-
pull in a yard for chickens because they were all over the place. And then we had one chicken.
I was waiting for the story.
My mother had a old maid tag washer in that room.
Right,
For some reason, I don't know how it started. You remember that chicken?
yeah,
Very much.
It was a red hen.
yeah.
We used to have the old screen door there, and she would peck on that door, and we'd let her in, and she'd jump up on the washer and lay her egg. Yeah. And then when she was done, she'd jump down, we'd open the door, and out she'd go. And the next day, the
Chicken's up
same
there now, You
routine.
got it, right?
That's how come that you ever hear the story that what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, we're still trying to figure that out.
And then we old rags that we had, and we laid them on the washer, and then she was very comfortable. She laid her egg, and
Oh,
she'd
she'd
go
go.
out. I don't know what happened, unless we killed her by mistake, because there were all red hens running around.
Did you name her? Did you have a name for her? Well, it had to be a brown. It had to be a brown hen.
No, it was red.
Oh,
What
red?
do you call them? Red
Rhode Island
rods?
Reds.
Red, yeah,
Oh,
Did it lay brown eggs or white eggs?
red brown.
Brown eggs.
brown eggs besides. Wow.
Then Mom at night would go out and milk the cow, and I'd have to go with her and hold the lantern. And I was really scared because you hear all the creakiness out there, you know. And she would be there milking that cow. We'd come in.
I remember watching Tony milk the cow. One time he fell right in it. Remember that too.
I don't think you. She did it most of the time.
My recollection was I'm 7, 8 years old at the most. Climbed up into the second story, I guess the hayloft,
Uh-huh.
and there was these cases and cases of unlabeled. Then I did not know, but it was whiskey or
Oh, what was it?
I remember opening it, taking a sip, got dizzy,
Really?
fell off the ladder, went out on the front porch, and my head was still spinning at that point. Yeah.
Where would that whiskey
What
come
was
from?
it? What was in the
Back,
box?
back in the day, again, World War II, Dad being in the bar business, you had to buy so many cases of the name brand liquor, and they would sell you whatever else. They couldn't move, I guess. So I remember him telling me that that particular piece of land in the back here, we have to grow soybeans for the cow. So we got it all prepared, planted. Soybeans are growing, comes time to harvest them. He says, we gotta put that up in the barn for the cow. Okay, so I did what I was told. A few days later, here comes one of the liquor salesmen, and he had all these unbranded liquor cases. Dad said, put them up in the barn. Okay, so we put them up in the barn. Then he says, now cover them with them soybeans. So, every once in a while, he'd have a friend come by who needed a case
And he'd
and
sell it.
would sell it to him. I can particularly remember this Jewish man from Norma, I don't remember his name, and he had a colored man with him, and they came with horse and wagon from Norma. And he always bought a couple cases of that whiskey up there. Put it under the seat of the wagon and cover it with a blanket,
And away he went.
and off he'd go, him and the colored man. Horse and wagon to Norma.
Wow.
And that's gotta be how far from here? At least,
20 miles? Did you
no,
say?
it's not 20.
No, 15?
10, 15.
12 to
15
15
anyway.
anyway. And he'd come by every couple of weeks, and Daddy would say, "You gotta go up in the barn." I said, "Now what are we gonna do with the soybeans?" He said, "Keep it." He said, "The cow will eat it." But then I can remember going back to Grandpa, when, like Angie was saying here before, the wild cherries were preserved with alcohol and mixture of whatever they had as a recipe. There would be people come here, friends of the family, who were doing a little bootlegging on the side to survive. And how they could tell if it was good stuff or not. They used to pour it in a tablespoon and set a match to it. And if it burned blue, it was good stuff. Then, of course, I guess I don't remember, they would buy the whole 5-gallon can maybe. But, and back in the day too, there was, several stills nearby. And, you know, the farmers had to make a living, they had kids to raise. And I know one time in particular, right down the street here, there was one that
Somebody just pulled in.
caught fire
Car go that way.
and burned up,
Somebody just pulled in.
Richard. And of course, that had to go through the procedures. Down the street, a little bit east of Oak and Brewster, was another one. The man was raising a couple of children, him and his wife. This time he rented his barn out. And the guys had a still in there,
There was one back in those woods here, wasn't there?
not here. So lo and behold, this thing caught fire on a cold winter night. Jeff Frame had rented the barn from Jimmy Nacy's father. Everything burnt, but you could see the pipes hanging in the still left. And now, of course, the law came and arrested Jimmy's father. Poor guy didn't even know what was going on. So right away, when Grandmom heard that they had put Jimmy's father in jail, she sent Daddy to City Hall to see who he could talk to get that man out of jail. So evidently it worked, because he was back on the farm in a couple of days. And then I could remember some big produce truckers in East Violent who would haul bootleg to New York. They would load the truck, all of the outer part was all produce, in the center was 5-gallon cans. And that's how they made their living. Also, back in the day, I had a close friend who was up in age, and his job was to be on standby for anybody that was coming drive back into the stills And at that time, it had to be outside of Hamilton, Chichimeria. He was housed upstairs at the hotel in Hamilton, but at nighttime he had to go work the road to make sure that the right people were coming. And to make sure they were the right people, the signal was blinking the lights on the truck. So what happened was that this one night, truck is coming, the guy didn't blink the lights. So now Chi-Chi figured, hey, we got to get out of here. And as you know, most of them still were built near a creek, so they would have the water. Next thing you know, he found himself in the creek, soaking wet. And the guy forgot to blink the lights on the way in. And, you know, it was the way of making a living them days.
Absolutely.
And some people made a good living at it. But it was all a lot of funny stories, but it was true. And mainly revenuers were after these people because of the tax.
Sure.
And I've got a friend today living in West Virginia who says that bootlegging is bigger than ever. They're hauling it right up the turnpikes and roadways into New York, Philadelphia. And some of the revenuers are afraid to go back to where the stuff is being made because they would just as soon kill you as look at you.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
Well, there you have it.
And there it is for that.
Oh, I can remember my sister went to beauty school.
Talk up.
Did you tell him? Huh? Oh, did you tell him about when you went to beauty school?
No.
Oh, you didn't get that far?
I told him I just went to beauty school.
Oh, she went. My sister went to beauty school, and when I was growing up, I had pigtails down to here. She knows what I'm gonna say. So I'm the guinea pig, and I'll never forget it. I sat by this window right here. Out came the scissors.
The hippie
Off went the pigtails. She wanted to give me a perm. Well, those days, you remember the solution? It was awful. I mean, it really was awful. So here she is. She gives me the perm, and I look like this when it was all finished. I'll never forget that. Remember that? That was funny. For me, it was funny. For me, it was
She
really.
was like a tomboy. She really didn't need
Yeah, I
curls.
really was a tomboy growing
Yeah.
up. I have to say that. On a farm. what do you do?
Baseball bat all the time.
That's right. It was really
So there's
a
another.
lot of fun days. A lot of fun days growing up. I mean, I'm
We
a
had our
different.
own entertainment.
Basically, I'm a different generation than Tony and Rosie. When you think about it, there's 13 years, 9 years difference. I'm the next generation down. So a lot of the stories they're telling today are new to me. You know, and we have different stories.
Well-
John, Joe, myself.
John
you know.
had better stories, right, John?
John had a lot of stories. I mean.
We'll get to
But
that.
we'd get to that. No, it was really like Rose was, Tony was married first, and then he stayed in this house for a while. I guess Frankie was born 1 year you were here. Then Rosie was married, but immediately you were on your own. Then it was myself and John and Joe that stayed here with Mom. So we really
You were
had
married
to.
then, weren't you? Were you
What?
married?
No. I mean, I was in high school. They were in grade
Oh.
school. Yeah. But I mean, my mother really had to work hard, you know,
Keep us together.
to keep us together. And she did a great job. She really did. And someone asked me the other day, did we ever argue as kids growing up?
We never had
We
time.
never had time to argue as kids growing up because we always had to work. And even though there was a gap between all of us, until this day, truthfully, we all get along. We really do. I mean, that's unusual to say that. So That's one of the things. And, you know, so many crazy things that happen.
So I wanted to go back to,
Let me jump in here a
one
second.
second, one second. Your beauty school
Beauty
days,
school.
the shampoo under
Oh,
the
that's
sink.
right.
Oh, Grandpa.
Yeah,
Grandpa.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Grandpa used to like to drink wine. And we had to hide the wine because he was getting a little tipsier. So I had shampoo down there in
Under
that
the
in the
sack,
closet.
yeah, in the
And
closet.
he thought it was wine and he drank the shampoo.
It was blowing bubbles like Lawrence Welk.
That was funny.
It
That
was on a
was funny.
Saturday night. I was going to pick up my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and I had to call and tell her I was going to be late for the date because Grandpa had drank shampoo and was blowing bubbles. So finally we got him straightened up. But, you know, going back to the old timers, not only did they make a family, they helped make this country
Mm.
by working, being honest, paying their taxes, and
No handouts.
no handouts. No, they were ashamed them days even to go downtown to get a welfare basket that were being given out. Another story about Grandpa. And back in them days, with all the children he had, he'd get on his horse and wagon and go downtown to do the shopping, and would buy stuff by the barrel them days. So he happened to be down there one day. Of course, he had to stop in and get himself refreshed with a beer. So while he was in having a beer, he left his little dog on the wagon. He comes out, the dog is missing. So he's looking all over for the dog. And one of the merchants came out and said, "Mr. Scarpa, that policeman coaxed the dog off of your wagon and took him because he didn't have no license on his collar." Well, Grandpa, being in the shape he was after being refreshed with a couple of beers, gets the policeman, wrestles him down on the avenue, and works him over good. Now, he knows he did wrong, so he comes home with his horse and wagon.
Did you get the dog? Did you get the dog?
Tells, of course he had the dog.
Oh, you had the dog.
Tells Grandma, take these kids in the house, and you stay in the house with them. He gets one of the tall hampers from out in the yard, turns it upside down, sits in the yard and puts a double-barrel shotgun across his legs because he knew they were coming. So sure enough, here they come. And they said, "Mr. Scarpa, you got to come with us. Before the judge, you beat the policeman and this and that and the other thing." He says, "I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going there with you today. I got to work the farm with my children. But I'll be there tomorrow morning." So, next morning, goes down to City Hall. There's the judge and everybody else. They call him to the stand and says, "Mr. Scarpa, you beat up a policeman yesterday." He said, "I don't understand. A policeman." He said, "I didn't know he was a policeman. He didn't have no badge. He was dressed like me," which wasn't right. So evidently he must have got away with that deal. But it was always said that, can you imagine policemen coming for you and you telling them, "I'll be there tomorrow"? Another story that he told, and was a true story, and many of the old timers, God knows how many times they paid double for their
Yeah.
farms because of bringing their money. And back in the day, this guy Newcomb who they named the hospital after, was the big man in town, and he probably had mortgages on all these farms. So most of them, immigrants, couldn't speak English or write or read. But Grandpop always told the story that he had his mortgage money in a bag, went to Mr. Newcomb's office, and got there at 5 o'clock. And he says to Grandpa, "Mr. Scarpa, I cannot give you a receipt for your money because the girl is not here. But if you leave the money, you can come back tomorrow morning for the receipt." Well, him being a little wise and has learned plenty from being in the country and whatnot, told Mr. Newcomb, "Mr. Newcomb, I'm taking my money home and I'll bring it back tomorrow morning when the girl is here and I'll get a receipt." But if not, he probably would have taken him for a few $100. Who knows how many farmers he did that to. Yep. But Grandpa always had a little foresight in doing things. And I guess that's what made him a little successful during his lifetime.
Seems like
How about the
Grandma
good
had some
qualities that
foresight
he
too.
had?
Right?
We talked about the fun side or the things about Grandpa, but how about some of the good things as a man that you might recall?
Well, you know, he was up in age already when I was born.
He
But
used to wear this shawl around his shoulders.
Yeah.
because he was
That's right, I
always
remember
cold.
that.
He was
Yeah.
I
cold,
remember that,
smoking
yeah.
stove
He
Was it a
smoked
heat.
and
brown,
sewed,
brown shawl?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I could,
Walk
And,
down the street.
I could still see the weave on that shawl. That's right.
And he took pride in raising maybe 3/4 of an acre of grape that he made his wine with. And
Right down the street down there, two
then
roads.
we had the road that used to lead through the farm, and he had grape on either side of that. And always knew when to prune them, how to tie them up, and when to harvest them. And September was mainly the
Oh,
harvest
the
time.
blackberries, we used to go out and prune with Mom. Remember, in the wintertime?
In the winter?
Yeah.
Cold
Before-
spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'd twist them things around those poles and cut them and we'd tie them. It was
Wow.
cold out there.
Wow.
She did all that herself, Mom. Pruned all those blackberries back there.
And during fruit harvest time, strawberries and blackberries, there used to be people working in the clothing shop who did not have full day work and were glad to come out here to pick berries for a cent or a cent and a half a
A
quart.
quart, I
I
remember
used to
that.
pick strawberries for 2 cents a quart.
Yeah. And, you know, you didn't know whether you were rich or poor because everybody lived the same.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true, I'll tell you.
And then
It's
Rose
absolutely
talk
true.
about the hams.
Oh, yeah, when we used to butcher
Slaughter
the,
the-
Yeah, the
slaughter
pig,
the
yeah.
pigs
What happened?
downstairs. I don't know, it must have been a bobby pin.
No.
They used to hold these big 300-400 pound hogs down there, lay them on the table, cut them in half, and Daddy would make all the nice hams, prosciutto. They used to hang down there in the basement, and the dry sausage. Used to make a lot of sausage, dry that out there.
Bacon.
I remember the dried peppers hanging. Oh, the
That-
you know, the red peppers. I
Yeah.
remember them hanging. Yeah.
And we used to make blood pudding. Remember
oh,
that?
Man, did I like that blood pudding? I remember that.
I know. We too. What were those seeds called?
Nuts.
It's true.
They put nuts in them, didn't they?
And it would gel and cook,
Mm.
and then they would put it in the casing,
Yeah.
and
it
then
was,
then
it
they
was
would
a-
cut it like a salami.
Right.
Oh
It
my
was-
God! And
wasn't
we
that
ate
good?
that stuff. My God!
good?
Today, well, I don't think I could eat it.
yeah.
Well, you know, today,
Blood pudding.
the
Yeah,
hogs
blood
aren't
pudding.
fed like they were fed them
Yeah.
days. They, you know, they ate what we ate right here from the table.
Boy,
Well,
I
there
could
used to
still
be a
picture
stove
those
right here. I
hands.
remember
Yeah.
the big stove here. Put that blood pudding in there and let that thing cook.
Then we used to have tubs on the stove of sweet potatoes to feed the hogs.
And then melt the fat to make the lard.
Yeah. And then the chicklings, we used to make dough.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
Put
know
in
the
the
chick
bread.
like that, I don't know. What you
That
do?
was-
Tell me that one?
The chitlins.
From you, when they melted these lard,
Yeah,
it would go down to what they call chicklings, right?
They used to squeeze it in a squeezer,
yeah.
Yeah.
and then what was left was the chitlins.
Oh, right,
And
yeah.
then they
you'd
make
bread
dough.
and put that in there.
Really?
And we ate that.
Cholesterol city.
What else did they do?
I'm learning a
A
lot.
lot of the sausage we used to put in the crock.
Oh, yes, what the lard,
With the lard.
preserve it, the sausage,
Really?
in these big crocks,
How long would it keep?
all winter.
All winter.
Well, hell, even during the summer, you used to go down and get the lard.
Grandmom used to make a sauce,
Yeah,
and she'd scoop that lard, would be that much grease on top,
yeah,
and put the sausage in the sauce, and
really?
Now the sausage roll, I think it was what, cured first?
yeah, sure.
It was cured first
Yeah.
and then put in there. We still got them crocks in the garage.
We have the crocs in the garage. They
There's
were
some down the
eggplant.
cellar, yeah.
And
Later
then she
years.
used to, Mom used to make the eggplant, pickled
Yeah.
eggplant. Do you remember that?
That's right. Oh, yeah, you
Oh.
don't. Yeah, John.
Yeah,
you
Usually
know.
mom or grandma?
Mom
Oh,
used
yeah,
to
that-
make the
that I
pickled
remember,
eggplant
yes.
and those crocs that are we
Right,
have.
that are there, yeah.
And she'd boil the eggplant in the vinegar,
Oh,
then
please.
go to the shop right and buy all the
Ingredients.
good
Ingredients.
oils, and then she
How
put all
old
the
was Mom?
seasonings.
No, Mom
Then
died,
that
she
was
was
good stuff.
90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old was she when Daddy died?
Well, he was 47 when he
Daddy
died.
died when
See,
he was
there's
47.
10 years
6 years,
between them.
10?
There's 10 years. If you look on there, there was 10 years that between them.
47, so she would be
She could've
37.
Yeah,
No,
she was
she-
young.
37? Can't
Yeah,
be.
38 the most.
Really? Oof.
Anyway, she was under 40.
Wow.
Now, how many women today would raise a family of
5.
5 and do all that kind of work and never lost an hour of work to keep everything going?
That's true.
According to this, they have dad at 28 and daughter-in-law Edith at 24.
I don't think they were 10 years apart.
Well, I thought that I read when they got married, John. That's why I thought it was.
Well,
I don't know, whatever, yeah, but whatever, yeah.
But anyway, Mom had a rough life
She did.
yeah, let's stay on that.
and never
Let's
and
get
never
to your
quit.
family.
Pardon me?
We'll get to your family, yes.
And-
We're on the
and-
subject of mom.
Always made sure that we did the right thing at the right time. And God forbid you should miss a mass on a Sunday.
Oh, please. I hear that song and dance. You got time to go out on a Saturday night, you better have time to go to church on Sunday.
Yep.
But
How far away was that?
Church?
Church?
Yeah, sure.
About
3
2 miles,
about
2
3
I used to
miles.
ride my bicycle to church.
Did you?
About 3 miles. Yeah, it wasn't far. I walked. We used to go to Sacred Heart School. We all went to Sacred Heart School, and we used to miss the bus. We'd walk home. You know.
Then there were the days when the roads were safe. Nobody
Yeah, right,
come and
right,
try to
yeah.
pick you up.
When
Walk
we
in the
first
snow and
went
the
to
rain.
Sacred Heart School, there was no public transportation. Mom would bring us in the morning. In good weather, you walked home. And that was it.
The only thing I could remember about my father was I was 9 when my father died. But maybe 6, 7, we were farming. We had the land up there where the car wash was. At the time it was farming. And I was a tomboy, as they say. So, you know, put me on a tractor when we had lawns, put it in gear at the corner of Oak and Main, and said, now drive it home. Now, how am I going to stop it? Now, I'll never forget that. You know, those things leave an impression on you. So here I am driving this tractor down Oak Road. I'm getting in a driveway, and I'm wondering, how am I going to stop this thing? Oh, that was funny.
Well, how did you stop it?
I just put my foot on a brake and just stalled out.
So our mother was born in Italy,
Yeah.
in a town called,
Oslo.
Oslo.
they pronounce, Italians say Jesolo, and we have her birth as 1906.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which we think is accurate, and we visited what we thought
Was her
might
home.
have been the homestead where she was born. And then she came here with her family, the Favretto family. They established residence and farming in East Vina,
Mm-hmm.
Dante Avenue. And she had 4 brothers.
Sereno, Brassy,
Rudy.
Louis,
and Rudy.
Sereno,
Sereno, Louis,
Brassy,
Brassy and Rudy.
Rudy, 4.
4.
4 brothers.
And 2 girls.
2 sisters.
3, Mom and Sadie
Yeah, 3.
and
2
Esther.
sisters,
Yeah.
And they're all deceased
Mm-hmm.
today, and they all have extended families, which would get that information too. for
Later,
this
yeah,
thing
but,
down there. But
actually, John was talking about Mom. I mean, naturally, I'm in my mother's era because my dad passed away. So they're more my father's, Rose and Tony are more my father's, you know, remember him more than I do, or probably John. So it's more, I
You were
know
about
more
5, I
my
think,
mother
when he
than I
died.
do my
yeah, I
father.
remember once riding in the car. He picked us up, I guess, walking home from school, and he's sitting in a chair right there by that window, sitting on his lap. I recall that.
Yeah,
Joe has a few memories
yeah.
as well, so we don't really have as much as
No,
both of you had, and except you both worked side by side with him for lots of years,
mm.
well, his life. And now, do you remember when he went to the hospital?
Mm-hmm.
I remember like it is right now.
Hernia operation he had.
He said, I'm going to the hospital. I'm going to leave the car there.
Mm-hmm.
You can come pick it up later. Thomas is going to do the operating. Well, we left it at that.
The peritonitis was set in. Then they called a doctor from Philadelphia. Remember that?
Too late then.
Yeah.
And how old was I? 18?
You were 21. I was 18. I was a senior in high
I
school.
wasn't 21 when he died, was
We're
I?
3 years apart.
Well, anyhow, the whole family were there that night. And now they were going to give him a blood transfusion. Well, it was already too late, but we didn't know this. And they tried to get the matching blood, and mine was the only one that matched. So the nurse says, come with me. Well, what did I know about giving blood or any of that other stuff? So I laid on the table, they took the blood, and they gave it to him, but it was already too late. And he passed in the evening.
They
That
didn't
was
have
it.
penicillin then either.
Nothing.
See, they had, oh, excuse me, they had no penicillin at all then, so
No.
they didn't have anything to fight the infection.
I don't think, from what I heard years later, that penicillin would have been the answer either.
Yeah,
Years later, I was at the Ford agency, and a doctor who was an intern at the time that Dad died, his name was Dr. Mattioli.
Oh, yeah.
He was serving his internship there. So I went up to him and said, Doctor, you don't know me, but I know you because your wife comes in my seafood market every Friday. My name is Tony Scarpa. So he looked at me, pointed his finger and says, Dr. Thomas killed your father.
Wow.
So
Yep.
there
really,
it is.
wow.
And he says that he was coming down the elevator with the anesthesiologist and my father. And the anesthesiologist told the doctor, this man ain't going to make it because the doctor cut too much.
Wow.
Now, whatever was cut or how they did it, I don't remember. But for a doctor to tell you this years later, that Dr. Thomas killed your father. And they were good buddies, the doctor and my father, for a lifetime. But I guess it was meant to be, I don't know.
And Rose, your thoughts of Dad?
Well, he was always treating me good, I can't complain.
Well, you were the little
Princess.
daughter, the princess
Yeah,
at the
right.
time, you were the princess.
The princess.
When he spoke, I had to listen, didn't give him no back talk.
We're bigger than
You
you.
had to do what you had to do, and that was it.
Right.
We didn't know,
Actually-
we didn't know what back talk was. You
In
just
those
did what
days,
you were
when you
told.
had to respect your parents,
Right.
that's all we knew.
That's all we had.
That's all we knew, that's all
So
we
actually,
had.
what Tony's telling you, I
Yeah.
know the whole story.
So at that point, after our father passed.
Mom was left with 5 kids.
Yep, and Tony said earlier on that he had to step up and be the man of the family and raise all of us.
Mhm.
Were you married then? You were not
No,
married. You were-
no.
Right. Did you have the egg business then?
Just started.
Just started.
And then how about when Mom was pregnant with these darlings?
Well, let's just hold that a second row, because we know that too. But the night he passed in the hospital, of course, everybody, all the family that was at the hospital came here. And all of the friends from, I'm gonna say North Island, all of them women, they were having an auxiliary meeting and the word got there that Daddy had passed. That whole North Island gang came in, plus neighbors and whatnot, so this house was full for a week with people.
And
Yep.
he was, the viewing
talk
was
about-
right here.
So talk about respect, to think, to fill this house within minutes of people coming and staying. Yep. And an interesting thing back in them days, when people went to visit the home of a deceased, there was always somebody there that was in charge of taking money, who would give money toward whatever.
Really? Oh, yeah, really?
And here Jim DeBiase had a cigar box, and he was in charge. You would write down how much
Really?
they gave.
Is
Yes.
that right? I never
You
knew
would,
that.
you would send them a thank you note.
Yeah.
Sure, who gave $1, $2?
Wow, I thought that was only at
And,
weddings.
Hmm?
I thought that was only at weddings.
No.
No. But now going back to Rosie, she can tell you the whole story of the birth of the twins.
Right, the marvelous, but before that though, I remember Dad was laid out here in this room.
Yeah.
And there was one huge snowstorm
That's where I was gonna say that, the snow.
also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also recall being told that that was probably one of the largest attended funerals
At the time.
at that time in Vineland.
Well, I remember having to view Dad's body, and I was afraid to do that.
Oh, do you remember
Oh,
him?
yeah, I was afraid, because, as a kid,
Yeah.
you don't know. So then I remember I stayed at Jenny's house.
So did we, yeah.
Yeah, you were there, yeah, we stayed over there.
And then Charlie told me that you told Charlie when he was renovating the house
Oh.
that,
Yeah.
We never did find the chip.
Well, he did, he showed it to me.
Oh,
What?
did he?
Yeah.
I couldn't find it.
What chip?
Yeah.
The chip was in the
You
banister.
said,
So when they
remember
moved the
when you said
coffin,
when you carried the
trying to get the
coffin out
coffin
the
out the
front
door.
door, there was a chip in the.
Oh, yeah, that's what, yeah,
Yeah.
on the rail.
Yeah.
There, still there?
No.
No, you did the
Take
rail
it
over.
off.
Oh, it's just in the paint then, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so then, sticking with Mom, the one thing is she's educated everyone here that
Yep.
wanted to go to college or
That's
trade
right.
schools.
yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Did so, paid for it.
Yep.
And I think as she grew older and her grandchildren started
Yeah.
to show up
Yep.
here, that changed a lot of her personality because at that point I think she,
Well, Mom only went to 4th grade in school, and she had to stay home and work.
Yeah, that's right.
yep. Yeah, that's
We,
right.
yeah, I can remember, on the table.
As a young lady,
Yeah.
she lived on the farm with her parents and brothers and sisters, which was at Dante and Lincoln. And on that corner now, I think part of it is a car wash,
Yeah,
part of it is a liquor store.
drugstore too.
Drugstore, right. And always said that her and her cousin, Lena Tamanini, who lived at Spring and Dante, I guess, would walk to Elmer and Maine to get the bus to go to work at Memorial Home ironing clothes
Yeah.
at the Veterans
Right.
for 10 cents an hour.
Then she bought a, remember, there were so many men here, she had to take care of all the uncles.
Yeah.
She bought a, what do you call those, ironers?
Yeah.
With the roller on?
Right.
Yeah.
She bought one of them because there were so many shirts that she would do all that.
Yeah, but in those days, that's what you did. You didn't have the laundromats
Yeah.
to run to bring the shirts. You did them all by hand. I used to sit at that thing too.
Yeah. She's
So
really,
that was back in the day when
Yeah.
their outings
Yeah.
was going to a dance on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Panther Road Hall.
Is that where it was? Panther Road Hall, okay. So another good friend of the family and my father was Caesar Ronchetti.
Yeah.
They were about the same age. So they would get all duped up on Saturday night and ride out to Panther Road Hall to dance. And I think that's where Daddy met Mom at the dance. Yep.
And Caesar always liked her, wasn't he?
That's right, yeah.
After Daddy died, Caesar tried to, well then Mom had bought the motel
Yeah.
in
Wildwood.
Wildwood.
Right.
And,
Caesar was a great friend of the family's for years until he died. And well, they all knew each other as kids, and they all had a good life together. Yep.
now comes the birth of the darlings.
Well,
Yes.
before that, let's get through
Oh, you want Angie?
Giacomelli's in order, we're chronologically here.
Yeah, so, yeah,
So-
right, 'cause we're leaving Saturday, so we
No,
gotta
no,
We're going back home.
Yeah, good.
So, we were talking before we changed the subject back to our grandparents and parents was Tony and his family, Rose and her family. Now it's you and Charlie family, and all of a sudden he's disappearing from the
Yeah.
picture. You didn't know that it was embarrassing.
No,
but-
Charlie, you coming back?
So there's,
Maybe they go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
so you have two children.
Yeah, first of all, I'll backtrack a little. I dated Charlie from high school, and we're married now 52 years, going on 53. But I have to go back to my mother, because when I was dating Charlie, she really liked Charlie. So I tried to break off with Charlie, but
Being she liked
being
it.
she liked him,
You
it's
stayed.
like, okay, so I'm out one night with my friend, and I come to get in the house. She locked me out of the house, and I had to go through the cellarway to get into the house because she was mad at me because I broke off with Charlie. I'll never forget that. I was with Elsa. So anyway, we finally got back together, and as I say, we're married 52 years, and we have two children. I have a son, Francis. He's 50, and daughter-in-law is Rhonda, and we have a little baby, and his name is Gianni, and he's 2.5. So Frank went to St. Augustine Prep. He went to public school here, went to St. Augustine Prep, then he went on to Spring Garden Institute in Philadelphia. It's a architectural school, and graduated and moved to Florida, and now he's in real estate. Our daughter Charlene graduated Vineland Schools. I have two granddaughters, Adrian, Erica, and my son-in-law Neil. Now let's see, we'll go back to Adrian. Adrian's going to be second year in college, Duke University, And Erica's going to be a junior at Dreyfus School of the Arts in Florida. Which, by the way, we do live in Florida, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. This is like our vacation home here in Vineland. Let's see, what else?
And for the record, Adrian is getting her,
Erica.
Erica's getting her driver's license today as we speak. She's 16 and a half, right. And she's leaving Thursday for California for 4 or 5 days. So they're growing up fast. See, Charlie, we married 52 years ago. Charlie was in the heating and air conditioning business. And
How come he's gotten quiet now? He's
I
playing
know
with
he's
his
quiet
phone.
over here. He's
He
on
has,
his
he has all this other information.
I
Yeah.
was just checking to see if she got her
He
license.
has all this other
All right. So
information.
anyway, then Charlie left. We left Vineland, and what year did we leave? 82.
82.
82 moved to Florida, Jupiter, Florida, and Charlie went to work for mechanical contractors
Yeah.
in Florida, right? And retired there. What
You
else?
worked.
Pardon me?
Didn't you work? Did
Yeah, I
you?
worked. I
Yeah,
worked
she
too.
tried to
Yeah, I
work,
worked.
yeah.
I also worked. But growing up, getting back to my mother again, she really couldn't afford to send all of us to college, so we had to work to earn our way. So I worked as a waitress all summer to earn spending money, and I wound up going to Goldie Beacom Business School in Delaware. And I knew times were hard for her, so I stayed there maybe 6 months, and then I came back and got a job. So my first job was at Vineland National Bank in the bookkeeping area. So then, I don't know what else to tell you.
You worked at Rudolph.
I worked at Rudolph Poultry. Oh my,
For
did I
years.
work there?
Yeah, then in
I used to
Florida.
work for Andy Lavari
Mhm.
over there, yeah. Then I worked in Florida,
Was
just
it
bookkeeping,
marble?
mostly office work.
Was it a marble of a business?
Yeah, tile and marble and, yeah. So
So
that's
then,
basically what I did.
And then when Charlie got out of the service, was it your first job in the aluminum window and door
Oh, yeah.
No, sir.
business?
No,
With
what-
the,
No.
sheet
What
metal.
did you do first?
First job. My first job I ever got?
No, at that point in time.
after you got out of service.
Oh, for a Navy Yard. Sheet metal work.
Sheet metal work.
In the Navy Yard.
Yeah.
Then you went to Richland Aluminum, didn't you?
Well, I was always in the heating part of it.
But then you went to Morelli's.
Well, I was before I was right out of high school.
And then he went into his own business,
Yeah.
When our
Giacomelli Heating and Air Conditioning.
Right.
And he was the guy that put the first air conditioning unit in this house.
No, I didn't do this house.
Who's
You
that?
didn't? Well, who did it?
Henry Mazzoni did it. Sastelli did it. We had moved to Florida already.
Oh, is that right?
I did Rosie's house,
Did mine.
Tony's house.
And this one was done last.
Yeah.
And then my mother only wanted this floor done.
That's
for
right.
This floor.
Not the second floor.
Then you had an alarm system put in, right?
Yeah, had the alarm system put in.
Oh, boy.
And that went off more times than it was on, right?
And then, speaking of the air conditioning in this house, my mother would go to Wildwood, because she had a motel there every summer, and I was just starting in the cable TV business. I lived here
Yeah, that's right.
after I lived at your place
That's
for
right.
several
That's right.
summers.
Yeah, that's right.
And the Midway Tavern had built a new facility. I went there for lunch, and I met Sal Romano, Concrete.
Yeah, right.
So he said, have a drink. So I said, what are you drinking? He said, I'm drinking gin and tonic. So all right, I'll have one. 1, 2, 3, whatever. I had a date that night.
Oh.
I came home, laid down, and at that point it was the bedroom upstairs where Mom lived, and passed out, fell asleep. No date. So I wake up the next morning, there's water all over the floor.
Oh.
I had plugged the window air conditioner in, turned it on, and never
Oh.
put it in the window. So
That's very,
that's the story.
That's a good
of
one. That's as bad as the shampoo.
yeah.
It equals that, right? So I'm next in the lineage, and
Did we, well,
my
before,
twin. Go ahead.
before you get to that, do you want us to talk about the house or not? Or you want to wait on that?
Well, let's get through this part,
All
now
right,
we can
no,
go
okay,
through it.
go ahead.
Before I was interrupted, I was telling you about,
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was the last to be married. It's the last one to live with Mom here in this house. And at that point, I think I took ownership of it then. Built that garage out back. One of your buddies, Koya, laid the block work.
Yeah,
That's right.
Harry Spiegel did the roof.
yeah.
My brother Joe, my twin brother, had gone off to college
Mhm.
in Mississippi, where he met and married his wife, Gay. And today they have 2 sons and 2 grandsons. And you'll get to talk to Joe and interview him, and he'll be able to fill you in on that. I was 36 when I got married. I married a girl from Vineland who had 2 little girls, Sherry and Danielle, and they were, I think, 6 and 8 at that point. And then we lived here in Vineland, 2 different homes. And then throughout my business career, we sold properties in Vineland. Actually sold a house I had in Seattle City and became a Florida resident, which would have been 1988. So today I have 2 daughters, 2 sons-in-law, Adam and Peter, two great guys, both lawyers, and 4 grandchildren, 3 girls and a boy. It's Jessica and Gabrielle are Sherry's daughters, and then PJ and Jill are Danielle's daughters. I was divorced 1998, I think, and I've since remarried. My wife, Jana Roan Geraci Scarpa, is a Vineland girl also, and there's a lot of history between her grandparents, the Roan family, and the Scarpa family that goes back generationally. So that's the story there. I think now we've gotten everybody in on
Yeah, I
this
think so, yeah,
deal.
yeah.
So shall we break here?
Yeah, whatever you want to do. It's already 2:30. You can think of anything else?
Well, there's a lot we will think of,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and we can
Yeah.
email you.
Think
Phone
along
you.
the same style. I mean, you guys you're working it out together. Nobody's trying to top each other with stories. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really a good.
Well,
So
now,
we're ready to
how long are you gonna take to do this, or was there a time limit on this, or what?
Really, I think it's when everybody says, "Well, that's all I got."
Oh,
I
okay,
had wanted him to visit with Sonny and Cookie,
yeah,
the Rizzos,
right,
and Charlene, Brandon,
yeah,
and Jimmy.
yeah.
And
What do you do on well, that's it then, on the
maybe
Scarpa
Junior.
side? Oh, Junior, that's right.
because I thought collectively, and I'd
Yeah.
like to get some of the neighbors to talk about Dad and Mom.
Gee, who'd be
You know,
left?
I don't know, that's the thing. The only,
Susie?
Huh?
Lloyd.
Lloyd is the
Lloyd
guy
would
that
be a
comes to
good,
mind,
yeah, he would be a good candidate. Other than that, around here,
Lloyd, I guess just maybe Jeanette and Susie,
well, Jeanette, you
How
can't
about
depend
Pete?
on.
huh?
Oh, please,
You're in for
Joe
it.
Spatola.
You'll be
no.
in for it.
You're the other side of the tracks.
Right.
I would
Anyway.
say out of everybody,
Stay on this
Lloyd,
side of the tracks.
Lloyd is a good candidate for
I would
that.
say Lloyd would be the best one.
Yeah,
So we'll set it up for Lloyd, and then,
well, how you gonna
I'll
get
talk-
these others together, like,
well, I'll have to talk to Joe. Maybe Joe can either do it out of video, or at least a telephone interview. Something about
Telephone would
that.
be, I would say, the
Better.
secondary resort. You know, if we can do it this way, it's
So we'll
it's
talk to
actually-
him
but that's
about
okay.
videoing it down there,
Okay. Okay.
and then
You
sending
wanna
it,
say-
sending it to you there.
Is he gonna need Charlene's,
Or
work book or?
Oh, yeah,
not yet?
absolutely.
Yeah, well, maybe when you get to that point, when you get to where you need all that info, we'll probably FedEx it to you or something, okay? Cause that's all really it, right there. You know what I mean? It's all
Sure.
the originals.
Well, good. That's great.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
I think what I'd like to finish up accomplishing is, you had started to give me the dissertation of the folks on the wall.
Oh, yeah,
over
oh,
there.
yeah, right, the
I
wall.
think I'd like to put the camera over there and have you actually go through and point to the
Yeah,
different folks on the
okay.
picture. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah.
Sounds like a great
License?
If
idea.
you wanna, John, if you wanna narrate it, I'll explain it. The pictures are on the wall of the
Yeah.
generations.
Well,
from
you
the-
can do it.
Yeah, all right, well, let me
I
get
gotta
started.
be in Millville at 3 o'clock anyway.
And let me clean up a little.
What time is it now? 3?
2:25.
Should I tell?
All right.
Wait for me, and go ahead.
Okay, hi. Yeah, this picture here was taken way back, I believe, when Grandmama and Grandpa came to America. And that's Grandpa Antonio Scarpa and his wife, Rosina Scarpa. Now we go from this picture, we're going generations, over to the 50th wedding anniversary of my grandparents. So we have my father Frank, my grandmother Rosina, my grandfather Tony, my uncle Jimmy, my uncle Danny, his wife Lena, my Aunt Angie, and this would be my Aunt Millie and my mother Edith. That's that generation. Then from that generation we go over to the next generation. These are the children of over here. Okay, then we have my brother John and myself, my brother Joe, my sister Rose, my brother Tony. That's one family. Then we have my Aunt Angie's daughter Tressa, and let's see who, oh, and her brother Joe. They belong to my Aunt Angie. Then we would go to my Uncle Jim, and that would be Frank and James Jr. That would be my Uncle Jim's family. Then we go over to my Uncle Danny, his daughter Barbara, his son Vito, and his other son Danny Jr. I think we have that generation all covered. So now from that generation we go to our children, which would be over this way. Okay, now if I can explain them. Try to pick out my brother Tony's children first of all. It's very small here, so it's going to be hard. Anthony would be one, and then we go to my sister Rose's children. That would be Mary Ann and Patty. Then we would go to my children, would be Charlene and Frank. I'm picking these names, and then, okay, so then these are our children plus nephews, nieces. We have Charlene Breda, we have her daughter Charlene, and her brother Jimmy. Then we go over to Frank Scarpa, And his daughter Valerie and Carmela are here, and son Frank. Then we go over to, trying to pick them out here, Vito Scarpa's children. What are their names, Rosie? Sonny's kids. What are their names? Sonny, Scarpa, what are his kids' names? Brett and
Brian?
Brian. Brett and Brian. Then we go over to Rizzo. Okay, we have here Frank Rizzo, Shirley Rizzo, and Barbara Ann Rizzo. Okay, let's see here. So many people here, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't think the goal is to name everybody in the picture.
Okay, well anyway, that's it.
I think
So
we
that's
just
not
need
the
to know
goal.
generally
Okay,
who
so
they
that's
are.
a generation there. Then we're going to the next generation, which would be our children's children. Is that good?
Mhm.
Our children's children. And if I had to name them, there's too many to name here. And then we go on down to the littlest guy. And he's the youngest of all, and that would be Gianni. He's now 2.5, and he belongs to my son Frank and his wife Rhonda.
Okay.
I don't know what else to tell you.
No, that's what we wanted
Yeah, I
you to
was
tell us.
trying.
is
Yeah,
what
I
you-
was trying.
what-
For the most part, all these pictures were taken from the family reunion. Oh,
Go ahead. It's okay.
okay. For the most part, most of these pictures were taken from our family reunion we had in 2008. So we have different generations, starting with my grandparents and their anniversary, and the different generations go down like our generation, my generation, cousins, and so on and so forth.
It's fine. Trust me, it's fine.
Okay,
That's going to be fine.
whatever.